Today we're talking about how I record voiceover. What's up, I'm Josh, full-time content creator and voiceover on Fiverr and a bunch of other sites. And now I'm going to run you through the setup that I'm running today, how I record, the room treatment, all the way down to the editing. So let's just get straight on with it. First things first, we're going to start with the fun stuff. The microphone. The Aston Spirit. The Aston Spirit is a high-performance switchable pattern microphone utilizing a 1-inch gold evaporated capsule. Its Aston 33-panel selected capsule is teamed with high-end transformer balanced circuitry, using only the best components. Just look at how damn gorgeous this thing is. The price is also pretty neat as well, especially for what you're getting. It's an absolute no-brainer. So, Aston Spirit, super versatile mic, it can handle many different recording scenarios. If you're a recording nerd like me, then you'll love that it has 3 Polaroid patterns to pick from, pad switches, and a low-cut filter. So, you're listening to this microphone recording my voice right now. Keep watching because later in the video we'll have a listen to what it sounds like with and without the processing that I use in my audio recording software. Now, the stand. So, we're putting this microphone onto one of these desk stands from Amazon. Now, I have tried a couple of these, and my main advice is don't get the cheapest ones. Something around this £30, $40 kind of mark is a good call. Spending a little bit more money like this, you're not going to damage your worktop, and you're not going to risk your mic falling over. I mean, if you've spent money on a nice mic, don't put it on a cheap, flimsy stand. I like this stand because I can keep the mic neatly out of the way when I'm not using it, but it's always set up and ready to go. So when I get a new voiceover job, I can get straight to work quickly. I also do a lot of voice and video calls from my desk, so having the mic ready to go at all times is essential to my workflow. Rule 1 of being a voice artist, stay hydrated. Another awesome point about the Aston actually is that you can mount it directly to the stand, so you don't actually need a shock mount. Now, I know there are audio benefits to shock mount, such as isolating the mic from movement so you don't get that low-end rumble, but with my workflow, I'd much rather not use a shock mount and keep the mic looking as uncluttered as possible. Also, Aston actually says their mic has virtually no handling noise, so this shouldn't be an issue. Next, we're talking pop shields. Now, I actually like to use these clip-on pop shields. I actually don't think that pop shields are really that important, but I think it's better to have a little protection than no protection. I also hate those really large, cluttered ones, the really huge ones. They look cluttered, they tend to be quite flimsy, so these clip-on ones do the trick. And I don't think they look terrible either. If I bought the Aston that came with the package that has the metal shock mount on the front, I'd probably be using that. Also, the mic already has a kind of built-in pop protection, so it already does a pretty good job of avoiding those plosives from the get-go. Peter Piper picked a pickled pepper. That probably sounded horrible. So this whole rig right here on the desk allows me so many different options. If I'm filming and I don't want the mic on set, then I can have it up, just kind of like that, so you can still hear me nice and loud and clear, and it's out of the way and you don't see it. If I want to feel like a radio broadcaster, then I can do that cool upside down mic setup thing. There we go. So I think I'm going to do the rest of the video with a mic like this. It just looks cool. So the arm is so long that I can extend it so I'm able to work standing up, which is really important when doing some voiceover projects. Okay, moving on down the chain. So the microphone is plugged in via an XLR cable, which goes round the back of this desk and up into my USB audio interface, which is the complete audio 2. Now, I don't think it's that important to get really hung up on these at all. They all basically do a similar thing. We just want to be able to take this analog audio signal coming out of my mouth and into this microphone and convert it into a digital signal before it reaches the computer. And that's essentially what this does. So I picked up this one, the Complete Audio 2, for a couple of reasons. One, it was pretty cheap. Really cheap, actually. And number 2, it has a big volume dial on the top, which makes me feel like a big studio producer. I like having it. Just let me have that, all right? Also, it lets me record up to 2 things at once, just in case I try to become Ed Sheeran again. Just seriously pick an interface that you can afford. 9 times out of 10, they're all good enough. The interface then connects to the computer. But before we talk about what hardware or software that I'm using, we need to address potentially the most important factor in my recording setup. Potentially the most overlooked and underrated aspect of quality voiceover production that gets taken seriously is the room acoustics. Now, allow me to demonstrate why this is important in only 10 seconds. This is the sound of my voice with acoustic treatment all the way around the room, on the ceiling, and behind the microphone. This is the sound of my voice with no acoustic treatment in the room. This is the sound of my voice with acoustic treatment. This is the sound of my voice with no acoustic treatment in the room. So we've got no panels above us, we've got nothing behind the microphone or even around the room, and we've even actually opened up the curtains to expose quite a large piece of glass, this window that's just reflecting my voice around the room even more. I hope that little test could illustrate the point effectively for you. If you want to take voiceover seriously, especially if you plan to take other people's hard-earned cash in exchange for your voice, then acoustic treatment really is non-negotiable. There are so many different ways to tackle room acoustics, and if you want, I can talk about it in more depth in another video. But for now, I'm just going to show you what I do. For years, I had always used acoustic foam tiles, which are stuck onto the wall. Now, they do make a difference. They do work. They do improve the sound of your room. However, not by much. So I wanted more. I decided to build my own panels using some wood, some rock wool insulation panels, some weed suppressant fabric, and some stretchy material from the local textile shop. These things really, really work. Better than anything that I've ever tried. And actually, I've got one hiding right here, right now as I record this video. By having these up in the room all the time, I feel more comfortable to just throw up a microphone and record my voice quickly without having to worry about setting up a vocal booth or hiding under a duvet. The room sounds pretty great all the time, no matter where I choose to record. Also, a cheap way to handle the reflections coming from the ceiling above, I just use this bedsheet, which is held up by staples. It does the trick. Now, as for computers, let's go on to that. Also, another thing that's not overly important. You just need a super simple computer that can run simple audio recording programs. Now, this doesn't require any crazy graphics cards or processors or lots of RAM, although it does no harm to have these things. But one important aspect when thinking about a computer for voiceover is background noise and fan noise. That sounds like an aeroplane taking off. Let's put it into silent mode. Yep, now it's definitely silent. All right. That's more like it. Previously, I used to own a large desktop computer, but the fans would actually go wild all the time, and I found myself trying to clean up the background noise from my voice recordings. One thing that I've learned from my audio engineering experience is to get any recording right at the source, and not to fix it in post. So make sure that your machine is as quiet as possible. And this is one of the reasons why I choose to use a laptop. Great, so the next piece of the puzzle is the actual recording program that I use. I use Cubase 9.5 Pro, which is a seriously powerful industry standard audio production powerhouse used by names as big as Hans Zimmer. It's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Now, I use it because it's what I have, and it's what I know. And that's what you should do. If you've already got software, you already know it, then stop looking, use that. I was given a version of Cubase 6 Artist by my dad, and I've just paid for upgrades over the years ever since. And I've used it primarily for music production, but now it's my extremely over-the-top voiceover recording and editing program. It has everything that I need and more right here. But I'm not going to recommend it because there are plenty of programs which are a fraction of the price that will do the exact same job of recording and editing voiceover. But since this video is about how I record voiceover, let's take a quick look. It's quite simple. It goes into the record channel. I set the dB level that I want, which is usually around 18 or negative 18, and then I hit record. As for the effects chain, it's extremely simple. So I have a gate to cut off any unwanted noise in between words, an EQ, which is removing the low end, and some boxiness here in the low mids. And we're also boosting the high end, which is quite flattering. Finally, a tiny touch of compression with a low ratio just to balance things out. If you're interested in learning more, let me know and I'll do another video on this. Great, so there you go. Now you know exactly how I record my voiceovers at home. If you have any questions, just let me know down below and I promise to read them all. And I'll try my best to reply to as many as possible. And if you also want me to explain any aspect of my process further, like voiceover editing for example, then comment down below and I'll see what I can do to help. Peace.